She was not lost. She was traded. Sold by her own father inside a smoke-choked gambling den in London, Rose Miller became property before she understood the price, and the man who would claim her was not a common brute. He was Edward North. The Earl men whispered about, the one who never forgave. So stay with this story, because tonight a contract is sealed, and blood will collect what it believes it owns. If this story pulls you in, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and if you want early access and exclusive dark stories, become a member. The air inside the tavern burned the lungs. Smoke hung low, thick, greasy. It stung the eyes. Rose stood against the back wall, still, hands twisted into her apron. She had been watching her father all night. Thomas Miller leaned over the card table like a man carrying stones on his back. His shoulders sagged, his fingers shook. 2 days without sleep, 2 days without drink, and still he played. Across from him sat Lord Kane, owner of that den, owner of 3 more like it across London, owner of debts that never died. Gold teeth flashed when he smiled. He did not need kindness. Fear worked better. "You have nothing left to wager, Miller." Kane's voice was calm, almost bored. Thomas did not hesitate. "I do." Rose heard it. Clear, sharp, even with men shouting, even with glasses breaking, even with coins slamming wood. "My daughter." A pause, then quieter. "Her virginity." He said it like a small thing, like lowering his voice could soften the trade. Rose did not move. Not because she was frozen, because part of her refused to understand. Because surely he would not. Kane turned his head, slow, measured. His eyes moved over her, shoes worn thin, grey wool dress, faded apron, copper-brown hair barely tied back. When his gaze reached her face, he smiled. "I accept." Cards flipped, wood scraped. A breath left Thomas's throat. Not a sob, something emptier. He stared at the table, not at her, never at her. Kane stood, extended his hand. Thomas took it. 3 seconds. No paper, no witnesses needed. The room had already returned to drinking, to losing, to forgetting. Then Kane walked toward her. Rose stepped back. The wall caught her shoulders. "Don't run, little one." His voice was low, almost friendly. That made it worse. "You belong to me now." A guard moved to block the back door. Huge man, arms like beams, face empty, used to this work. Rose looked at her father one last time. He did not lift his eyes. That was the moment. Not fear, not shock. Something dry ignited inside her. Anger. Clean. Sharp. Useless for many things, but not for one. A brass candlestick sat on the shelf beside her. She grabbed it, swung hard. Metal hit bone. A hollow crack. The guard staggered, more surprised than hurt. It was enough. 3 seconds. She used them all. The back door burst open under her shoulder. Cold hit like a fist. December, London, 1780. The worst storm in 30 years, the dockworkers said. Snow did not fall, it attacked. Horizontal sheets, like shattered glass in the wind. She had no coat, only wool, apron, thin shoes that soaked through in 10 steps. Behind her, Kane shouted. Men crashed into the snow, but the storm swallowed sound, bent distance. She ran. Into dark. Dark had always been more honest than men. Streets vanished. Stone turned to mud. She had crossed beyond the city. Ahead, trees tore black lines into the white sky. The forest began where London gave up. She did not hesitate. Forward was the only direction that existed. Her feet grew heavy. Her toes stopped hurting. That was bad. Pain meant life. She stumbled over a root hidden under snow, fell hard to her knees, stayed there, breath rising in white clouds, hair soaked, face numb. Maybe this was how it ended. Not by knife, not by cane, but in silent white, in a forest that did not know her name. Then, hoofbeats far closer, stopped. Rose lifted her head, slowly. The horse was black, almost invisible against the night. On its back sat a man, still, straight. Military coat dark against the storm, leather gloves, hat low, snow clinging to the brim. He did not speak. He watched her, kneeling, shaking, lips drained of color. His expression was unreadable, not pity, not surprise, colder than both. She tried to stand, her knees failed. He dismounted in one fluid motion, walked toward her, stopped less than a yard away, too close to ignore, too far to comfort. He lowered his head slightly. His eyes met hers. Light, almost colorless. Still. "What are you doing here?" His voice was rough, low, not gentle. A man used to answers. Rose opened her mouth. Darkness swallowed her. The first sound she heard was water. She woke. Stone ceiling, high walls, candles flickering without wind. At the center of the chamber stood a copper tub. Steam rose slowly, like breath. She tried to sit up, failed. Her body felt doubled in weight. Women moved around the room, 2, maybe 3. Soft voices, heavy skirts. One approached with a towel. Rose tried to speak. Then a male voice cut through, short sentence, quiet. The women froze, exchanged a look. Left, one by one. Door shut with a dry click. Silence. He stood by the window, back to her, without the coat, without the hat. He was worse this way. White shirt open at the collar, dark hair damp from snow. Shoulders broad enough to claim the room, posture rigid, controlled. When he turned, she saw the scar. It ran down the left side of his neck, thick, old, faded like weathered bone. He did not hide it. He wore it. He approached the tub. "Don't move." She tried. Her legs refused. Only then did she realize her dress was torn, soaked, clinging to her skin like frozen mud. He picked up a sponge. "You have a fever." Not concern, a statement. "If I don't lower it now, you won't wake tomorrow." "I can do it." Her voice broke, rough. "You can't even close your hand." She looked at her fingers. They trembled, knuckles purple. He was right. She hated that he was right. He removed the ruined dress, efficient. No ceremony, no cruelty, no softness either, just necessity. She clenched her jaw, stared at the ceiling, counted the stones. Warm water touched her shoulder. She had not expected warmth. That unsettled her more than cold would have. He worked in silence, shoulders, arms, back. She remained rigid, breathing through her nose, slow, measured. When he reached her thigh, he stopped. There was a cut, likely from the forest, hidden under snow. He pressed the sponge gently against dried blood. A sound escaped her throat, not from pain. His hand stilled, not abruptly, carefully, as if he had sensed something shift. The sponge rested against her skin, his gloved fingers steady. Rose's eyes were shut tight, breathing uneven now. The muscle beneath his hand was tense. Not in fear, not in pain, something else. And in the silence between them, the contract felt closer than ever. It was not innocence, it was instinct. A body that had never been touched there, a body that did not understand the signal. Edward did not remove his hand. The sponge moved slowly, up along the inside of her thigh, measured, controlled. Water traced paths she had never allowed anyone to see. She inhaled sharply. His fingers pressed lightly, testing, reading, not rushing. Her entire body tightened, a reflex primitive. Her hand shot to the rim of the copper tub. She gripped it hard. Knuckles pale. He felt it, the racing pulse beneath his palm. The tremor she could not stop. Her body betrayed her, a small arch, unsteady, involuntary. He watched, not with hunger, with calculation. Her breathing had changed, shorter, faster. The sponge stilled. "You haven't been touched." His voice was lower now, not a question. Rose opened her eyes. Her throat was dry. Her heart pounded loud enough to hurt. "That's none of your concern." He studied her face, long, silent. Those pale eyes held something new, not warmth, not cruelty, recognition. His fingers lifted her chin, firm, precise. The exact amount of strength needed. No more. Your father threw a treasure into filth. A pause. But I arrived first. I am not... And now, he continued, cutting her off calmly, every inch of you belongs to North. Anger cut through the fever, clear, sharp. I belong to no one. He did not argue, did not raise his voice. He picked up the sponge again, returned to cleaning the cut on her thigh. Slow, methodical, as if her words had been background noise. That frightened her more than rage would have. A man who shouts still sees resistance. A man who ignores you has already decided. He finished. Rose said nothing. He stood, walked to the dresser, placed a dark dress on top. Simple, severe. When you are dressed, he said at the door, we will discuss what happens next. Where am I? Her voice surprised her, steady. He paused. You don't know my name. He turned slightly, enough for her to see the scar, the hard line of his jaw. You will learn to say it properly. The door closed. Silence. The escape had not been freedom. It had been exchange, one cage for another. Rose woke again. Not total darkness. Firelight. Low. Orange. The room was enormous. The light did not reach the corners. It felt like floating in empty space. She pushed herself up. Slow. Painful. But her body obeyed. The fever was gone. The fog, too. Only cold clarity remained. Then she saw him, seated in a chair against the wall, half shadow, half flame. The firelight deepened the scar along his neck, made it older, more severe. His eyes were on her. They had likely been there before she woke. How long have you been watching? She asked quietly. Welcome back, Rose Miller. No emotion, just fact. She pulled the blanket higher. Where am I? My castle. A pause. North of England, 3 days by horse from London, when weather allows. Another pause. It has not allowed. You brought me here. Yes. You kept me unconscious. You had a fever for 2 days. He tilted his head slightly. You called your father's name several times. A faint pause. Curious loyalty. Her chest tightened. I want to go back. He stood slowly, walked to the fireplace, picked up something from the stone ledge. When he returned, he dropped it onto her lap. Burned velvet, dark red once, now blackened at the edges, stained. What is this? What remains of the Shadows Club? Her eyes lifted. While you were here, he continued evenly, my men went to London. They entered through the roof, locked the doors from outside, and set the building on fire. Her pulse stumbled. It burned to the foundation. No one survived. You're lying. Am I? He let silence stretch. My father was there. Another pause. Measured. Thomas Miller died in that fire, along with Lord Kane. 3 guards, 2 maids, 1 blind musician, 7. The flames were too violent for separate identification. He studied her face. To the world, Rose Miller died with them. Daughter of Thomas Miller, 19 years old. Deceased. Her throat closed. No sound came. He crouched so they were eye level. You no longer exist. Not legally. Not socially. He lifted the burned fabric from her lap. Careful, controlled. You belong only to me now. You're a monster. No. Immediate. Calm. I am a man who pays the necessary price. And what price was that? The continuation of my bloodline. He stood again. For that, I require a wife, not a woman shared by half of London. I require purity, absolute control. He retrieved a folded parchment, placed it before her. A marriage contract. No church, no flowers. Only witnesses I select. You will sign. She stared at it like it might strike. And if I refuse? He did not answer with words. He drew a dagger, small, ivory handle, thin blade. He turned it once in his hand, casual, familiar. You will not refuse. He caught her right hand before she pulled away. Firm, exact. Not enough to bruise, enough to immobilize. The blade lowered toward her finger. She tried to pull free. She could not. The blade pierced her fingertip. A dry snap. Then pain. Sharp, immediate. Blood surfaced, warm, bright. Edward pressed her finger against the parchment. Slowly. Once. He dragged it across the final line. Red spread over the contract, sealing it. He released her. Rose pulled her hand back, pressed the bleeding finger to her chest. Her eyes burned. Not just anger. Something heavier. Humiliation. Edward folded the parchment with care. Precise movements. He placed it inside his coat. It is done. His voice was lower now. You are legally the Countess North. Irrevocably. He stepped closer again. This time there was no false softness. His fingers gripped her chin firmly. Enough pressure for her to feel bone beneath skin. He forced her to look at him. There will be no kiss. His tone was rough, controlled. I do not celebrate transactions. A pause. You are a luxury prisoner. Until I decide to claim what I paid for. He released her abruptly, walked to the door, stopped with his hand on the handle. Rest. Tomorrow the rules begin. The door shut. Rose sat in darkness, finger still bleeding, breathing shallow. Rose Miller had died in that fire. What remained had no name, only an owner. 3 days passed. She counted by meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner. 3 times a day a maid entered. No knock, no eye contact. The tray was placed near the window. Then silence again. On the 2nd day, Rose tried to speak. Wait. The maid did not respond, did not look at her. Left. On the 3rd day, Rose stopped trying. The castle was too quiet. Not peaceful, empty, no laughter, no conversation, only footsteps that came and went like clockwork. She stared through the window for hours, white forest in every direction, endless, even if she escaped the room, even if she passed unseen through corridors, even if she reached the main gate. Where would she go? 3 days to London, no money, no proper clothes, no identity, dead to the world, alive only here. The door opened without warning. Edward entered, straight posture, controlled expression. 2 maids followed him, carrying folded dark fabric. He stopped in the center of the room, pointed at the dress she wore. Remove it. Rose did not move. No. He tilted his head, not angry, curious. No? I won't undress in front of strangers. He looked at the maids, then back at her, and he smiled. Slow, unsettling. They are not strangers. They are mine. A step toward her. And you no longer have the privilege of choosing who sees you. Rose backed into the wall. He made a small gesture. The maids placed the new dress on the bed, left silently. The door closed. Now only the 2 of them. Wear it. She looked at the garment. Dark blue, evening gown, lower neckline than she had ever worn. Why? Because tonight you dine with me, and I do not tolerate disrespect at my table. And if I refuse? He approached slowly, each step deliberate. He stopped close enough to block the light from the window. You will not refuse. 5 seconds of silence. Then he turned and left. Rose stared at the dress. She hated herself when 10 minutes later she put it on. The dining hall was smaller than she expected, not grand, not crowded. A table for 6, only 2 seats occupied. Edward at the head, Rose to his right. Too close. Candles everywhere. Fireplace burning low. He did not speak at first. He ate slowly, methodically, watching her between bites. She could not eat. Her stomach was tight. The corset pressed hard. The neckline exposed more than comfort allowed. Finally, he set down his fork. You are not eating. I'm not hungry. Lie. His voice was almost gentle, which made it worse. You are hungry. You refuse to eat because you believe it bothers me. You think it is resistance. She said nothing. He leaned back slightly. "Let me clarify something, Rose. You have no power here. None. The only choice you control is how long you suffer before accepting that. You kidnapped me." She stood abruptly. "You burned my father alive. And now you expect this to be normal?" "I expect nothing from you." His eyes never left hers. "I expect you to understand reality." He pushed his chair back, stood, walked toward her slowly. Her pulse quickened. He stopped beside her chair, lowered himself until his face was level with hers. Close, too close. She felt his warmth, leather, smoke, steady breath. She tried to lean away. The chair trapped her. One hand rested on the back of her chair, blocking escape. The other lifted her chin, firm, controlled. "You hate me," a quiet murmur. "I know. I do not care. Hatred is still tension. And tension," he leaned closer, lips hovering near hers, "is enough, for now." She stopped breathing. If she inhaled deeply, their lips would touch. Her body reacted. Before her mind could stop it, pulse racing, skin alive with heat. A tightening low in her stomach she refused to name. He saw it. He read the change. Her lips parted slightly, just a fraction. A faint smile touched his mouth. "Do you want me to kiss you?" Not a real question. She tried to deny it. No sound came. He moved closer, close enough for his breath to warm her lips. He stayed there, suspended. 5 seconds. 10. Then he pulled away. Abrupt, cold smile. "But I will not give you that." He straightened, adjusted his coat, returned to his seat. "For you will beg for every fragment of attention. When you are ready to beg—" He lifted his wineglass, drank slowly, eyes locked on her. "I will decide if you deserve it." She stood frozen, heart pounding in her ears, anger, humiliation. Something else she refused to name. He finished the wine. "You may return to your room. Tomorrow, the real rules begin." The next dress was red, deep red. The maids dressed her again, tightened the corset too firmly. Her ribs protested. They styled her hair in careful curls, painted her lips darker, fuller. She looked in the mirror and did not recognize the woman staring back. The dress clung to her, too tight, too exact, like it had been stitched onto her skin. The door opened. Edward entered in formal black. Dark brocade vest, leather gloves, immaculate, controlled. He stopped when he saw her. His eyes moved slowly, from her hair to her shoulders, to the curve of the red fabric at her waist. Perfect. His voice was low, approving, unreadable. "They will want to touch you." A pause. "They will fail." "Where are we going?" "A ball. Lord Ashford celebrates his daughter's birthday. The local nobility will attend." He stepped closer, adjusted a loose curl near her temple. Too intimate, too casual. "You are my wife now. They need to see it." She turned her face away. "I am not something for you to display." His fingers caught her chin, turned her back to him, firm. "You are exactly that. Tonight you will smile. You will accept compliments. You will call me husband, without hesitation. Do you understand?" Her jaw tightened. "And if I refuse?" His eyes turned colder. "If you refuse, I will make you regret it before we leave." Silence heavy. He released her, offered his arm. "Let's go." Ashford Manor was warm, bright, full of music and laughter. A string quartet played near the far wall. Candles everywhere. Rose entered on Edward's arm. Conversations lowered. Not stopped, but lowered. His hand rested at her waist, not gentle, possessive, as if guarding something rare. Count North, a heavy man, approached, large mustache, wine in hand, smile too wide. What a surprise. "And who is this enchanting creature?" "My wife." Edward's tone was neutral, but his fingers tightened slightly. "The Countess North." The man blinked. Wife. I was unaware you had... He recovered quickly. He took her hand. Lord Ashford, a pleasure. His grip lingered. Too long. His eyes dipped briefly, then returned to her face. Edward noticed. The pressure at her waist increased. Subtle, claiming. The evening continued. Introductions, measured smiles, lingering male glances, whispered female judgments about her youth. Edward remained beside her, taut, silent, until a young blonde man approached, too confident, too comfortable. He bowed, exaggerated. Countess, may I have the honor of this dance? Rose opened her mouth. No. Edward's voice was calm, but final. My wife does not dance with other men. The young man laughed nervously. Of course, I only meant... Step away. No room for debate. The man retreated, vanished into the crowd. Edward's hand closed around Rose's arm, not gentle. We are leaving. But we just arrived. Now. The carriage was dark, only moonlight through the windows. The wheels hit uneven road, rocking the interior. Rose sat across from him, hands folded tightly, breathing controlled. He had not spoken, not since they entered. He watched her through the shadows. Why did you look at him? Her brow furrowed. What? The blonde boy. You looked at him. You smiled. I did not. He moved fast, one moment across from her, next moment beside her. He trapped her between his body and the seat, hands at either side of her face. Do not lie to me. I'm not. His mouth claimed hers before she finished. It was not gentle, not soft. It was possession, firm pressure, demanding. She tried to push him away. He caught her wrists easily, pinned them above her head with one hand, the other traced down her neck, her shoulder. Slow, controlled. She turned her face aside. He gripped her chin, brought her back. Then he bit her lower lip, sharp, brief, enough to draw blood. She gasped, shock, pain, something she refused to name. He pulled back slightly. They will know now. His voice was rough. Anyone who looks at you will see you are marked. She trembled. Her lip throbbed. Her body reacted again. Betrayed her. Heat spreading where she did not want it. He noticed. He always noticed. His fingers brushed lightly at her neck, feeling her pulse. You hate me. Not a question. But your body does not understand that yet. He released her. Returned to the opposite seat. Calm again, as if nothing had happened. A trace of her blood remained at the corner of his mouth. He did not wipe it away. When we arrive, he said evenly, you will return to your room. You will stay there until I decide otherwise. Tomorrow the lessons begin. Lessons? He smiled, darker this time. On how to be my wife. Rose closed her bedroom door behind her, leaned against it. Her lip was swollen, split. She had rinsed it 3 times, still tasted copper. She touched it lightly, shivered, not only from pain, from memory. She moved to the vanity, removed the pins from her hair one by one. Curls fell over her shoulders, the red dress still too tight. Breath shallow from the corset. She reached behind her back, unfastened the first button, then the second. Her fingers paused at the third. Something moved in the mirror, a shadow. Behind her, near the door. Her heart slammed. She froze, eyes locked on the reflection. The shadow stepped forward into candlelight. Edward. He had not knocked, had not spoken. He simply entered. Closed the door with a quiet click. She turned. What are you doing here? He did not answer. He stood near the door, hands behind his back, posture rigid. His coat was gone, shirt open slightly at the collar, sleeves rolled to his elbows, more scars visible along his forearms. He began to walk toward her, slow, unhurried. She backed into the vanity. Leave my room. Your room? His tone almost amused. Everything here belongs to me. Including this room. Including you. He stopped less than a yard away. She tried to move sideways. His hand caught her wrist, firm, controlled. "Stay." He guided her back toward the vanity, turned her gently but decisively, until she faced the mirror again, and he stood behind her. Rose stood before the mirror. She couldn't breathe. Edward was behind her, a shadow, a predator. His heat radiated through her silk dress. It felt like a fever. In the reflection their eyes met. Cold steel meeting panicked glass. He didn't touch her yet. He just pointed at the buttons, small, white, a thin barrier between her and his will. "I didn't say stop," his voice rolled like distant thunder, "and I won't." The tone was final. No room for mercy, no room for talk. Rose swallowed hard. Her fingers were shaking. 1 button, 2, 3. The fabric began to betray her. It slipped. Lower. Edward didn't look at the dress. He didn't care about the silk. He watched her face. He watched her jaw tighten. He watched her pulse jump in her throat. 6 buttons. The dress was a ruin. Then he moved. His hand climbed her waist. Slow. Heavy. It wasn't a caress, it was a claim. His fingers dragged over her ribs, over her bare shoulder. He stopped at the base of her neck. He leaned in. She felt his breath first, hot, controlled, stinging against her skin. He just stood there, breathing, mapping her terror. Then he inhaled, deep, deliberate. "You still smell like fear," he growled. The vibration hit her spine. "But there is something else, something you won't admit." His grip tightened on her chin. He forced her head back. A brutal angle. Her throat was exposed, a silver offering to a wolf. "Open your eyes, Rose." She fought it. Open them. The pain in her jaw made her obey. In the mirror, she saw the truth. She was trapped between the wood and his chest, a bird in a cage of bone and muscle. He didn't go for her lips. He went for the kill. His mouth pressed against her neck, right where the blood hammered. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't kind. It was territorial. Rose let out a broken sound. A sob? A gasp? Edward smiled against her skin. She felt the curve of his lips. "You like this?" It wasn't a question. "You hate that you like it, but you do." He bit her, hard enough to leave a mark, hard enough to make her remember him every time she moved. "On our wedding night," he whispered into the wound, "I will teach your body to obey, long before your mind accepts it." His voice was a dark promise. "I will touch the places you've kept hidden. I will make you beg for the things you swear you hate. And when I'm done, you won't remember how to breathe without belonging to me." He let go. Suddenly, Rose stumbled. The cold air hit her like a slap. He walked to the door, calm, indifferent. "Sleep well, wife." The lock clicked. She was alone, marked, ruined. And she knew he was right. Her body was already becoming a traitor. The night didn't bring peace. Rose sat on the edge of the bed. The red dress was gone. Replaced by thin white linen, it felt like a shroud. Midnight passed. 1 a.m. Silence. Then the door opened. No knock, no warning. He owned the room. He owned the air inside it. The key turned in the lock. The final sentence. Rose stood up. Her legs felt like lead. "No," she breathed. Edward tilted his head. "No? I don't want this." He walked toward her, measured steps, the sound of a hunter closing in. "What you want is irrelevant." He stopped inches away. "You signed the contract. You wear my name. Tonight you fulfill your only purpose." She backed away. The wall hit her spine. "Please." The word was pathetic, weak. He didn't show pity. He showed recognition. It was too late for prayers. He grabbed her wrist. He hauled her toward the bed. She fought. She clawed. It didn't matter. In 3 seconds she was pinned. His weight was a mountain. "Don't struggle. It will only hurt more." She struggled anyway. He pinned her wrists above her head. His grip was iron. He wanted the bruises to show. He wanted her to see them tomorrow. He ripped the linen. The sound of tearing fabric filled the room. The cold air bit at her skin. "Look at me." She turned away. "Look at me." She opened her eyes. His gaze was ancient, cold, dark. There was no morality there, no mercy, only the debt. He didn't ask. He didn't wait. He took what the contract promised. The pain was sharp, a blade across her soul. Rose screamed into the pillow. She tried to close her legs. He held them open. "Don't ask me to stop, Rose." His voice was raw. "I am simply taking what is mine." The pain turned into pressure, invasive, total. She closed her eyes tight. Tears tracked down her temples. He moved, slow at first, then with a rhythm that demanded an answer. Every movement was a stamp of ownership. Then the nightmare deepened. The pain didn't leave, but something else grew beneath it. His sweat dripped onto her skin. Hot, heavy. The room was freezing, but she was burning. Her body, her traitorous, wretched body, began to shift. Her mind screamed no, but her nerves were screaming something else. Her back arched, not by will, but by instinct. She made a sound, not a sob this time. Something darker, something she hated. She hated him, she hated herself. She hated how the heat was rising in her gut. Edward felt the change. He always felt everything. "You feel it," he hissed. His voice was a guttural growl. "You hate what you're feeling. But you're mine now. Completely. Your body doesn't lie, Rose." His voice was a blade. He pressed deeper, and something inside her snapped. Not her bones, her will. A collapse of resistance so violent it left her hollow. Her body reacted with an intensity that burned. Shame, pure, suffocating shame. Rose sobbed, not from the pain, but from the humiliation of the tremor, the dirty pleasure bleeding into her tears. She couldn't stop it. She was becoming an accomplice to her own ruin. Then, silence. Edward went rigid. He exhaled, a long, heavy sound that filled the room. He let go of her wrists. He rolled away. Rose didn't move. She stared at the ceiling. She felt everything. The throbbing ache, the heat between her legs, the metallic scent of blood and his expensive cologne, and worst of all, and the memory of the pleasure inside the horror. She felt filthy, stained from the inside out. Then came the real tears. Convulsive, violent. They shook her shoulders and tore sounds from her throat. Cries of rage. Cries of hate for him. But a deeper hate for herself. Because she had arched her back. Because she had moaned. Because she had betrayed her own soul. Edward stood up. He didn't look at her. He adjusted his shirt. Precise movements. He buttoned his vest. He ran a hand through his hair. Impeccable, like it was just a business transaction. A deal closed. While she lay there in pieces. Rose looked at her wrists. The skin was turning, red to purple. Dark circles where his fingers had dug in. Evidence. She looked at the white linen gown, torn, useless. Then she saw the sheets, dark red against the white, a visual proof of what was stolen. Edward walked to the door. He stopped, hand on the handle. He looked back. No guilt, no remorse, only cold satisfaction. The look of an owner who got exactly what he paid for. "Rest," he commanded. "Tomorrow we begin again." The door clicked shut. Rose was alone in the stained bed. Marked wrists, torn spirit, and a terrifying doubt growing in her mind. Did she want him to stay away, or was she afraid he would take too long to return? That doubt was the true torture. Morning came in shades of grey, cold, brutal. Rose forced herself to sit up. Every inch of her body burned. A deep ache, the pain of being broken and put back together the wrong way. She walked to the full-length mirror. She stopped breathing. The marks were everywhere. Precise, intentional. 10 dark circles on her wrists, a map of his grip. She touched one. It hurt, but not enough. That was the problem. She didn't recoil from the pain. She memorized it. She looked closer. The bite on her neck was a deep bruise, the scar on her lip from their first encounter. new shadows on her ribs, on her hips. Everywhere his hands had claimed territory. She felt the anger rise, hot, furious. How dare he mark her like cattle? But then, a shiver, involuntary. Dark. As she pressed the bruise on her neck, the memory returned. The heat of his body, the weight of his chest. She backed away from the glass. No. She couldn't be feeling this, but she was. A sick truth began to take root. These marks made her unique. No other woman in the castle had them. No other woman in England carried the weight of Edward North's fingers in her skin. Only her. A twisted kind of belonging. A perverted satisfaction she loathed. The door swung open. Edward entered with a tray. Tea, food, like it was a normal morning. Rose grabbed a blanket. Shame was a heavy cloak. He stopped. He looked at her. His eyes traveled over the marks, wrists, neck, shoulders. He wasn't checking for injuries. He was taking inventory, checking his merchandise. "Put that on," he said, pointing to a dark dress. "Breakfast in the library, 20 minutes. I'm not going. You are." He walked toward her. The air in the room vanished. "You will eat. You will call me husband. And you will stop looking at me like I'm a monster." He leaned in close. "We both know you enjoyed parts of last night." Rose's face burned. "I didn't." His hand shot out. He gripped her chin. He forced her to face the mirror. "Look at us, Rose." In the reflection, the contrast was devastating. He was powerful, dressed in dark wool. Total control. She was broken, naked under a blanket, marked. "Look at what I did to you," he whispered against her ear. Rose looked. She saw the predator and the prey. But she saw something else, the way their bodies fit, the way his arm curved around her waist. It looked like it belonged there. In the mirror, their eyes met. It wasn't love. It would never be love. It was a connection between two broken things, a recognition. Edward's hand moved down, slowly, cruelly, over her neck, over her shoulders. His fingers traced the bruises on her wrists. "The North does not leave scars," he murmured. "It leaves property." She should have pushed him. She should have screamed. She did nothing. The silence of the castle had created a hunger, and Edward was feeding it. Her body was confusing possession with belonging. He turned her around. He grabbed her hand and pressed it to his chest. His heart was strong, steady. "I'm coming back tonight," he warned, "and tomorrow, and the day after. Until you stop fighting, until you accept this." He moved her hand to her own heart. He pressed hard. "This is mine now." Rose opened her mouth to lie, to deny him, but his hand slipped to her waist. He pulled her flush against him. The blanket fell. She felt him through his coat, hard, demanding, and the worst part? Her body didn't reject him. It tightened. It heated. She felt an urge to lean into him, to surrender completely. Edward saw it. He always saw it. A dark smile touched his lips. "You're starting to understand." He let her go abruptly. 20 minutes, Rose. Don't make me come back for you." The door closed. Rose stood alone before the mirror, touching the marks with trembling fingers, realizing that the monster wasn't just in the room. The monster was starting to live inside her. Acceptance. It's more dangerous than rage. Rose felt it growing like a cancer. She wasn't agreeing with him. She just had no choice. The isolation had snapped her soul. And Edward, cruel, brutal Edward. He was the only living thing left in her world. Broken minds do broken things. They mistake a cell for a home, a monster for a companion, possession for love. Rose dressed slowly. The dark fabric hid the bruises, but she felt them. Every mark pulsed against the silk. She went down to the library. Edward was there, waiting. He pulled her chair. She didn't resist. He placed a hand on her shoulder. She didn't flinch. He called her wife in front of the servants. She didn't correct him. Rose Miller was dead. What remained belonged to the North. The chance came on the fourth night. Edward rode south, 3 hours away. It was enough. Rose waited for the sun to drop. She grabbed a heavy coat, gloves that didn't fit. She slipped out the back door. The cold hit her like a brick wall. The blizzard was a white hell. The wind howled through the towers. She couldn't see 3 feet ahead. Rose buried her face in a shawl and walked. She didn't have a map. She just needed distance. Between her and that castle. Between her and the woman she was becoming. 10 minutes in, she lost her feet. 15 minutes while she was lost. The forest was a maze of ice. She tripped over a root, fell, got up, fell again. Her hands were numb blocks of ice. She kept moving, because stopping meant death. Then she heard it. Hooves. Her heart hammered against her ribs. A shadow emerged from the white. A black horse. A darker rider. Edward dismounted. He walked toward her. Slow. Deliberate. A walking death sentence. "Stay away from me," she screamed. He didn't stop. "You'll die out here. I'd rather freeze than be your property." Edward stopped 3 yards away. His face was a mask of ice. "Then die." He turned his back. He started to walk away. Panic hit her harder than the cold. He was leaving her. To die alone. To disappear in the white. That thought was worse than his touch. "Wait." Edward stopped. He turned slowly. "Changed your mind?" Rose tried to speak. Her lips were frozen shut. He marched back. He grabbed her arm and hauled her toward the castle. She fought him, weak slaps to his chest, scratches that didn't mark his coat. "I hate you. I hate you." Edward grabbed both her wrists. One hand. He shoved. Rose fell back into the snow. The ice bit through her clothes. 1,000 frozen needles in her spine. He was over her in a second. His weight pinned her to the frozen earth. "Freedom." His voice was a low growl. "What freedom, Rose?" He gripped her chin, forced her eyes to his. "Rose Miller died in that fire in London. Your father is ash, you are a ghost." He leaned closer. "Out there you are a nameless beggar. No one will claim you." He squeezed her jaw until it bruised. "Here, you have a title. You have a roof. And you have my touch." She tried to look away. He wouldn't let her. "I don't just own you. I am the only thing keeping you alive. Without me, you don't even exist." The words were physical blows. He was right. Invisibly, undeniably right. To the world, she was a corpse. She only existed if Edward allowed it. "I hate you," she whispered. "Hate me then." He leaned in. His body blocked the wind, a pocket of heat in a world of ice. "Your body doesn't speak of hate when I touch you." His hand slid down her neck, over her heart. "Deny that you want me now. Deny that my heat is the only thing keeping your heart beating." Edward pressed his hips against hers, crushing her into the snow. She felt him, through the layers of wool. The invasive heat, the hard reality of his possession. Rose let out a moan. The wind swallowed it. It wasn't a struggle anymore. It was surrender. Her hands stopped pushing. They rested on his chest, seeking the warmth. He stood up abruptly. He lifted her like she was nothing, threw her over the horse. They rode back in total silence. He carried her up the stairs. Brutal efficiency. He threw her onto the bed. Rose lay there, drenched, shivering, small cuts on her face from the branches. Edward stood by the door. He stared at her for a moment. Then he left. The door clicked shut. Silence. Rose waited. 1 hour. 2. She stripped off the wet clothes, wrapped herself in blankets. She watched the door, waiting for the click, waiting for his shadow. The silence hurt more than the bruises. Her body had been reconfigured, wired to need his touch. Violation had become a necessity. She felt a burning shame between her legs, a dirty anticipation. She hated that her body begged for its own destruction. She hated that his absence hurt more than his presence. 3 hours later, the door opened. Edward walked in. No words, no explanation. He walked to the bed. He pulled back the blankets. Rose didn't fight. She closed her eyes. She let him take what he no longer had to steal, The most terrifying truth was this: she didn't want to run anymore. Edward looked at her, naked, vulnerable. His cold eyes promised nothing. Rose didn't cover herself. She didn't recoil, she just waited, under the weight of the man who owned her soul. His hands moved first, slow this time, not wild, not careless. They slid from her shoulders, down her arms, until her wrists were pinned to the mattress, firm, controlled, not the violence from before, but enough to remind her. He was in control, and for the first time, Rose did not fight. She did not pull away. She did not struggle. She looked at him, breathing uneven. Then she lifted her head and kissed him. She closed the distance. Not him. Her. Her mouth crashed against his with a hunger that shocked even her. It was not forgiveness. It was not love. It was need. Raw. Ugly. Desperate. She needed to feel something. Anything. Something stronger than the emptiness he left behind when he walked away from her days ago. Edward froze, just for a second, surprised. Then he answered, hard. His teeth caught her lower lip, bit down, sharp enough for her to taste blood, metallic, warm. His grip shifted. He released her wrists, but his hands did not soften. They moved down her body with ownership, claiming, gripping, holding, like conquered ground. Rose let out a sound against his mouth, half pain, half something she refused to name. Her hands moved up his back, fingers digging into him through the fabric of his shirt, clutching, holding on. And then she started to cry. She did not stop kissing him, did not pull away, but tears slid down her temples, hot, silent. Her mouth kept moving against his with frantic urgency. She cried from anger, from humiliation, from hatred, hatred for him, and worse, hatred for herself, for needing this, for wanting this, for not being able to separate her body from her pride anymore. Edward felt the tears. His mouth left hers, trailed down her cheek. He kissed the wet tracks slowly, almost tender. It felt wrong, coming from him. "You're crying." His voice was rough, low, almost a growl. "I hate you." The words broke out between uneven breaths. "I hate every inch of you." He stopped, lifted his head. Their eyes locked. His were clear, cold, but burning underneath. Not anger, not softness, recognition, possession. A slow smile formed on his mouth. "I know." He gripped her chin, thumb brushing over her swollen lip. "And that's why you're mine." Her breath hitched. "My hate is as deep as your obsession." She let out a broken laugh. "You broke me." "No." He leaned closer, barely a breath between them. "I rebuilt you." Silence, heavy. Then he took her again, not brutal like before, worse, because she responded. Her back arched. His name left her mouth without permission. Her fingers raked down his back, leaving marks beneath the cloth. Her body moved with his, without thinking, without command, like instinct, like air, like survival. And somewhere inside her, the part that remembered who she used to be, watched in horror, her body betraying every line she once swore she would never cross. Pleasure came in waves, not clean, not pure. It felt wrong, humiliating, born from surrender. She cried through it, whispered through it, hated him through it, and still, she did not stop. When it was over, she lay there, drained, not just her body, her spirit, the kind of exhaustion that comes when someone finally stops fighting the inevitable. Edward rolled to his side, but he did not let go. His arm stayed wrapped around her waist, heavy, possessive, even as their breathing slowed. Rose stared at the dark stone ceiling, tears still falling. Quieter now, no sobbing, just steady. "I'm not me anymore." Her voice was barely there, hoarse. He turned her face toward him, forced her eyes to meet his. "You're better. More honest. I'm your prisoner. You're my wife." He smirked faintly. "Same thing." She looked at him, at those clear eyes with no shame, no regret. And she realized something. He was wrong about her being better, but he was right about one thing: she was more honest now, because the truth she fought for weeks, was simple. She preferred this. She preferred the destructive possession of Edward North over the empty freedom of a world where she felt invisible. She preferred belonging to him over belonging to nothing. Say it. His voice was low, commanding. What? That you're mine. She closed her eyes. No. His hand tightened around her jaw. Say it. Pain shot through her face. I'm yours. A whisper. Broken. I'm yours, and I hate you for it. He pulled her closer. Body against body. Heat. Weight. Presence. The hate will fade. He kissed her temple. Soft. Almost gentle. I won't. And she knew. He was right. Hate needs distance. There was none left between them. She had stepped into his darkness, and darkness does not fight itself. It simply exists. Morning came cold. Grey light through the narrow window. Rose woke to the weight of his arms still around her waist. He had not moved, even in sleep. He held her like property. Edward lay on his back, breathing slow, steady. She studied his profile. Strong jaw, the scar at his neck disappearing beneath the collar of the shirt he never removed. Her nail marks were hidden, but she knew they were there. Proof. She had chosen her ruin. Then, a sound, distant at first, shouting, horses, steel striking steel. Edward's eyes opened instantly. No confusion, no haze, just awareness. He was out of bed in seconds. Get dressed. Now. His tone was different, urgent, sharp. What is happening now? She grabbed the first dress she saw, dark wool, pulled it on with shaking hands. Edward was already at the door, ivory dagger in hand. Stay inside. Lock the door. Open it for no one but me. Edward. He crossed the room in 3 strides, took her face in both hands, kissed her, hard, quick, possessive. Then he was gone. The door slammed. 3 seconds. That's all. She stood still. Then she ran to the window. Chaos below. Riders in the courtyard. 10. Maybe more. Dark coats. No crest. Blades already stained red. His guards were outnumbered, being pushed back toward the gates, and then she saw him. Edward stormed into the courtyard. Sword drawn. No hesitation. No fear. He moved like a man built for war. This was not the calculated husband from the bedroom. This was a soldier, a predator. Steel clashed. Blood spilled onto snow. Men screamed. Metal rang against stone walls. Rose should have stayed upstairs. She didn't. She ran, down the stairs, heart pounding in her ears. She burst into the courtyard just in time to see a rider dismount. Sword raised, eyes locked on her. He charged. She froze, and Edward appeared, out of nowhere. He stepped between her and the blade, too fast, too precise. Then, the sound. Wet, sickening, steel entering flesh. The attacker's sword pierced Edward's left side. Not deep, but deep enough. He made a low sound, half growl, half pain. With his free hand, he grabbed the man's throat, squeezed, hard. A crack. The attacker collapsed. Edward staggered, his hand pressed to his side. Blood poured through his fingers, staining his white shirt dark red. Edward! Her scream tore from her throat. He looked at her. Just for a second. Then his knees hit the snow. She ran to him, dropped beside him. Her hands pressed against the wound, hard, desperate. He hissed in pain. No. Her voice broke. You can't. You can't leave me. The blood was hot under her hands. Too hot. Too much. It soaked through her fingers, dripped onto the white snow beneath them, red against white. Edward lifted his hand, shaking, covered in his own blood. He touched her cheek. I told you. Stay in the room. His voice broke between breaths. Weak. Shut up. Rose pressed harder against the wound. The bleeding would not stop. You're not allowed to die. Her voice cracked. You don't have permission. Something moved across his face, not a smile, but close. "An order. From my wife?" "Yes." She shouted it, tears falling without control. "You said I was yours." Her hands trembled but did not move. "Then you're mine too. And I do not give you permission to die." His eyes began to close. "Edward." She grabbed his face with blood-covered fingers. "Look at me." "Don't close your eyes." Slowly, he opened them again, clear, even now, even bleeding into the snow. They were clear like ice. "You love me?" The question came out broken, barely a whisper. Something cracked inside her chest, and kneeling there, with his blood soaking her hands, with fear tearing through her ribs, she knew, with certainty. Yes. Her voice was desperate, but steady. "I love you. I love you, and you're not leaving me." It was not a clean love. It was twisted, dark, but it was real. The realest thing she had ever felt. "Good." His voice was almost gone. "Exactly. As planned." And then he went still. Her mouth opened. No sound came out, only cold silence, broken by heavy boots rushing closer. Guards, servants. Too late for the fight, just in time for the aftermath. Rose lifted her head, and what they saw was not the frightened girl dragged into the castle weeks ago. They saw Countess North, face stained with blood, tears gone, eyes cold, burning. She looked at the captain of the guard, authority in her posture. "If he died," her voice was flat, sharp as the blade that cut him, "I will personally make sure every one of you wishes you had fallen in the snow with the traitors." She pointed to the nearest corpse. "Bring the physician, now. And I want the name of whoever sent them before nightfall, or I start hanging guards for incompetence." The captain swallowed, and obeyed. Because in that moment, looking at Rose Miller, and he understood. She was no longer prey. She was the queen of the dark kingdom Edward had built, and queens do not collapse when kings bleed. They take the crown, and make the world pay. Edward slept for 3 days. 3 days she never left the room. She slept in a chair beside his bed, ate only when the maids forced food into her hands, changed his bandages without shaking. The physician said the wound was serious, but not fatal. The blade missed the vital organs, close but not enough. Edward North was built from something harder than ordinary flesh. The doctor did not say it, but she saw the relief in his eyes. On the 3rd night, his eyes opened. Rose was sitting beside the bed, holding a book she was not reading. She felt the shift in the air, looked up. His gaze met hers, clear, focused, alive. She closed the book slowly. "Welcome back." He turned his head toward her. No surprise, as if he always knew she would be there. "How long?" His voice scraped. 3 days. He tried to sit up. She stood immediately, pressed a firm hand against his shoulder. "Don't be stupid. You almost died." A faint curve touched his mouth. "An order. From my wife?" "Yes." She lifted a glass of water, held it to his lips. "Drink." He obeyed, but not like a sick man, like someone acknowledging an equal. He drank because she told him to, and she told him because she had the right. When he finished, she set the glass down and looked at him. The expression in her eyes, he knew it. He had seen it in mirrors his entire life. Possession. "Who were they?" Her voice was low, hard. "Men of a lord I killed 2 years ago. Late revenge. They're dead. The attackers are." She did not blink. "And the one who sent them?" A pause. "Not yet." She tilted her head. "I want the names." He studied her, long, then smiled, not cruel, proud. "You're not the girl from London anymore." "No." She stepped closer, sat on the edge of the bed, took his face in her hand, without asking. "I'm Countess North, and no one touches what is mine without paying in blood." He took her hand, turned it, pressed his lips to her palm. A promise. Then we collect. 2 weeks later, Edward stood again, still healing, but upright. Rose stood beside him in the great hall, wearing deep red, like a queen forged in iron. A man knelt in the centre. Lord Ashford. The same lord who once hosted that party months ago. The same man whose eyes lingered too long on her that night. The same man who funded the attack. You denied it. Rose's voice was calm, cold. When my guards came for you, you denied involvement. My lady, I swear— Silence. She did not raise her voice. I did not finish speaking. He shut his mouth. She walked slowly around him, hands clasped behind her back. You lied to me. You lied to my husband. She stopped in front of him. And you thought we were weak enough to forgive. He opened his mouth again. She lifted a finger. The captain struck him with the hilt of his sword. He fell sideways, groaning. I did not tell you to speak. She looked at Edward. He sat beside her, watching like a man observing a play he had written. Marido, her tone deliberate. What is the punishment for treason against House North? Death. His eyes never left hers. But I leave the method to the Countess. She smiled. Not soft, not kind, dark satisfaction. Hang him at dawn. She turned to leave, then paused. And leave the body for 3 days. I want the North to remember. Ashford whimpered. She did not look back. That night, in their chamber, Edward pulled her to the bed. Not gentle. He never would be. But something had changed. Not predator and prey. 2 predators. Equal. You enjoyed it, he murmured near her neck. Yes? She answered without hesitation. No regret? None. He smiled against her mouth, kissed her hard, possessive, proud. She answered with the same fire. No tears, no resistance, only partnership. When it ended, she lay beside him, head resting on his chest, listening to the heartbeat that almost stopped in the snow. I love you. Soft. Certain. His fingers moved through her hair, not gentle, claiming. I know. Pause. And you're not going anywhere. She closed her eyes. No fear now, only certainty. I don't want to. He pulled her closer, hard, forced her to look at him. I know. His voice was cold, final. I made you for this. A pause. I broke you, and rebuilt you exactly the way I needed, so you would never have another choice but to belong to me. His hand tightened slightly at her jaw. You are my extension, Rose. My blood. My shadow. And I don't allow what is mine to walk away. He didn't kiss her softly. He pressed his face against hers, breathing her in, feeling her pulse racing beneath her skin, like music, like proof. Edward didn't need love words. He held her loyalty, her darkness. For a man like him, that was worth more than devotion. She should have felt anger, should have felt disgust at the confession, at the manipulation laid bare. But she didn't, because the truth was simple. She had changed him too. Men without attachment don't throw themselves in front of blades, not for property, not for pride. They had ruined each other, and from that ruin, built something new, something toxic, dangerous, unbreakable. We will rule the North together. Her voice wasn't a question, it was a claim. He pulled her closer, as he always did, as equals. Yes, his arm wrapped around her waist, familiar, permanent. King and queen of ice and shadow. He kissed her forehead, strangely gentle, almost obscene compared to what they were. And may God have mercy on anyone who tries to separate us. She closed her eyes, let herself sink into his warmth, his weight, his presence. The girl who once ran through snow weeks ago, she was gone. What remained was Countess North, forged in obsession, tempered in blood, completely his, just as he was hers. Monsters do not get happy endings, they get each other. And this is where their dark romance ends. Edward North, Rose North. The world sees a young woman sold by her father, but we know more. The innocent girl disappeared. What remained was a countess who chose her throne. Now I ask you, if this ending stayed with you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and if you want early access and exclusive dark stories, become a member. Until the next obsession.